I would like to begin this lesson by first posing the question as to what English is. So, what is English? Now, this may seem like a very absurd question, especially given the fact that the vast majority of you would have studied English for a very long time, way back even before primary school. So it may seem a little strange that we're going to be dealing with this question when we're now in high school. You may be thinking that by now you know what English is, but besides the fact that it is a language and that it's a compulsory subject for the HSC, what do we actually know about English? Now, this is a very important question because we need to take a holistic approach to the study of this subject, meaning that we need to first understand the purpose behind what it is that we are studying so that we can, number one, fully understand what we're doing, number two, appreciate the study of English so that number three, we can excel in the subject. Now, if we don't understand the holistic picture of what we're doing, it's going to be very hard for us to enjoy the subject and do well. And that's why I find so many students actually struggle with the subject because they haven't understood the whole picture. So, one aspect that distinguishes English from any other subjects is that we don't study the subject using textbooks. We study English using text types. Other subjects such as mathematics, science, and social sciences all use textbooks, but English remains one of the very few subjects where we don't use any textbooks. Now, the main reason for this is that at the crux of what we're trying to achieve in this subject is that we're trying to learn how to communicate. And we communicate through language, whether that be written language, spoken language, or visual language. If you've also seen the new syllabus for year 11 and 12, they have introduced a new form of language which we call digital language. And this is almost a culmination or a hybrid between all three traditional language. Now, why is this important? If we take a step back and recall what we did in years 7 to 8, you will notice that we have been exposed to a variety of text types, and there are numerous text types. These text types include text such as poems, radio scripts, films, advertisements, picture books, plays, speeches, novels, you might have done documentaries, feature articles, newspaper articles, letters, essays, and the list goes on. Now, of course, this isn't an exhaustive list, and there are many other text types, but the reason why there are so many text types that we study is because there are all mediums through which we communicate to an intended audience for a particular purpose. Now, there are a range of different types of purposes, including to persuade, to inform, to criticize, to amuse, to describe, to educate, or to even entertain. Again, this isn't an exhaustive list, but it's a useful acronym to remember the different type of purposes. Picardy. So again, we're exposed to a variety of text types, especially in years 7 to 8, so that we can communicate to an intended audience for a particular purpose, so that a particular or specific message or an idea could be conveyed. Now, this is precisely why we don't use any textbooks, because what we're trying to do is learn how to communicate through a particular text type, depending on their intended audiences and the purpose for which we're communicating. Now, to give you an example, if I wanted to inform or persuade my views regarding an environmental issue, or let's say the housing affordability crisis, to the Prime Minister, then perhaps the best medium to use to communicate that message would be in the form of a letter or an essay. I might write a report, or I might even write an open letter in the form of a feature article in the Sydney Morning Herald, if I get published, of course. But if I wanted to communicate the same message with the same purpose for, let's say, a kindergarten student, then of course a kindergarten student wouldn't necessarily understand a fully detailed report or an essay. So perhaps the best medium to use in that case would be a picture book or a children's film. So if you guys ever wondered why we studied films and picture books during English in high school, this is precisely the reason why. So during year 7 to 8, we look at a variety of text types. In year 9 to 10, we then start to write essays. And then in years 11 to 12, we look at higher order thinking and learn about critical thinking skills and focus on actually the ideas, the different modules and electives, which we'll discuss in the next lesson. So to sum this lesson up, we now know that we are learning how to communicate in English through the use of language, whether that be written, spoken, or visual language. We do this through the relevant text types that employ these different languages. depending on the purpose of the text and their intended audiences.